Second, yes. Thank you, Tier, for sharing there with us. All right. So as we said, today we are on our agent breakthrough on Tuesday. We move you guys over here. There we go. So welcome. My name is Chuck Wells, and I'm a coach, consultant, public speaker, instructor, trainer. Main thing you want to know about me is I'll always be your number one fan. That's the last line there at the bottom. I am a growth partner and coach with The Locker Room. So I'm sure that I have seen some of you. If you're new to The Locker Room and this is the first time you've met me, well, hello. And I know you'll be seeing more of me as well. Again, this is an investment of your time. And so turn your cameras on, engage, no secret agents or leaders out there. I encourage you to participate, raise those hands, use the little reaction symbol at the bottom to raise your hand if you have a question or a comment. Silence your phone or other disruptions possibly in the room. Use that mute icon. Get comfortable. Let's get ready to ask some questions, to learn, and ultimately in the end, decide what you're going to take action on. Keep in mind, we're definitely a collection of people here within the real estate industry. We're brand agnostic. We do not recruit. We do not advocate for any particular brand that may be out there. And as I said, we're going to learn today how to double your business without doubling your schedule. So I'd like one person to unmute, and what pops in your mind as the tactic, the solution of how you could make that happen in your world? When you hear that, double your business without doubling your schedule. One person.
Hey, Chuck.
Yes.
I immediately go to less is more.
So
that just spoke to me as you were reading it out loud in my mind. It was less is more.
Less is more. I love that, Melissa Cruz. And what I love to say is work smarter, not harder. Work with intention. Cut out some of that busyness and let's get to the business. Like all of those work, within our world. So some proven strategies that could play into the working smarter, not harder, less is more, could be the intentional time management and prioritization. Guys, this could become a whole 3-part series. Yet we're not talking time management or prioritization today, yet I want you to think about that. Could play in that, have a key part in more income and less and with the same schedule. A second could be growing your skill set, practicing those scripts. The conversion rates increase when our skill set increases, when we know how to handle those tough situations. A third way that this would play out could be adopting or hiring leverage. The word adopting there, I throw that in because there's a lot of fear and control when we start handing off pieces in our business, when we're to that point or that stage in our businesses. So the adoption is key for ourselves to buy into it and to realize now is okay. This time is okay. And then we move on to figuring out how to hire it. A fourth way definitely could be increasing your average price point. There's strategies in that. Many times we can find ourselves trapped in a price point in a certain geographic area of a metro when just beyond the highway or just across the street is a higher price point. And how do I tap into that? Definitely strategies there as well. Number 5, protecting your profitability by controlling the expenses, controlling the spending. Yet what we're here to talk about today is the last and final one of database strategies. More interactions equate to deeper relationships. Relationships turn into conversations. The conversations turn into opportunity. Opportunity turns into business. Don't know how I remembered that one right off the top of my head, but it was working today. I love this quote, guys, because it's not complicated. It's just challenging to stay disciplined and consistent. It says, learn to do the little things well. And remember, it's the little hinges that swing big doors. It's not some big concept we have to discover or identify. Guys, it's already been identified for us. There's proven systems, models, practices, those that have paved the way before us. All we have to do is quit being totally creative, put our ego aside, and adopt the practices. Okay, so we're going to lead up to the true activities, and where I want to go first, just some history, some information that will lead up to the activities that you can definitely take action on and adopt. So going back to the laws of the database, we need to organize it and build it. Guys, initially, spreadsheet is fine. CRM is fine. A basic CRM versus a robust CRM, it's all okay. Organize it, get it all, the information all in one place, know what you're working with, and then build it from there. Or group it and prioritize it based with the contact information you already have. For many of you, you have enough contacts right here to begin with. Then the second law is feed it, grow it, I add, maintain it daily, keep it updated. There's nothing like the worst thing in the world is to have outdated information in your database. And you finally work up that nerve and you're going to contact them and you're dialing that dial and they're not at that number anymore. Or you send out a mailing and it comes back in your mailbox with that yellow sticker on it, returning to sender, because that's not a valid address anymore. So keep it maintained, keep it updated. Communicate with it systematically and often. I added the and often there. Systematically is scheduling, is technology. Sometimes it's just assigning it to a plan, to a marketing plan that's a no-brainer, and it gets done without you showing up because you schedule the date that it's going to go out. And then, of course, we've done all this work. Let's service the leads that are generated from it. And those leads that are generated from it that might not be ideal leads for you, have referral partners within your organization and outside the areas that you serve to refer those to. Any questions, comments thus far? Some of this sounding familiar? I see some heads nodding there. Okay, so we're going to dive into what you can expect from your database. Everything is a direct correlation from the size of the database to how you communicate with it to the money or the leads that come and the money that you earn. This may sound a little familiar to those of you that have been through Track. I believe this is in week 8-ish of Track. And a projected yield or a projected return from a database. Year one, you can, when communicating with it, you can't be a silent agent now. I think we all know that. Year one, it is proven that you can expect a 5% return. Year two increases potentially to a 10% return. Now you might ask, well, Chuck, why is that? Why in 1 year would it double? Well, it takes a bit for us to start occupying space in people's minds. in the forefront of their mind. So when they think about real estate or they hear someone in a conversation needing real estate help or making a real estate decision, they think of you. So naturally, there is a time period to grow and earn that space in their mind. Well, how do we grow and earn that space in their mind? Well, that's why you're here today, is through communicating, marketing, having conversations with them. And then when you really become a master at this and play all in, now I'm talking, this isn't basic standard, like entry level. You have to play all in. And I'm going to show you what all in is. In a third year or thereafter, when you choose to play all in, it might be year 8 or 9 for some of us, you can expect up to a 16.5% return. Now, guys, this is sales. This is just sales statistics. This is not necessarily only real estate. This is proven across industry lines. Now, something that is specific to real estate is 97% of realtors that are registered or members of NAR, National Association of Realtors, 97% of us do not close more than 24 transactions a year. 97%. So let me say that in a different way. Only 3% of the thousands, tens of thousands of realtors that are members with National Association of Realtors are closing more than 24 transactions a year. Now, for today's sake, we're going to speak to a database that will close 24 units, and this will give you the know-how to grow it from there if you choose to. Now, success and the amount of business that we all desire is different from person to person. So I'm just going to speak in a general term here because our mission at the Locker Room is to serve the blue ocean. The blue ocean is that 97% that we, and our mission desires for you not to become a statistic and fall out of the business. And so I'm going to speak to the 24 units a year because in most markets across the United States, that's a 6-figure income. And that's a good income. That's a good income. And it's a heck of a second income in a household. So that's what the number we're going to use today. A database of 24 units, or I'm sorry, an income of 24 units needs at least a database of 240 people, 240 plus. Now, you see on my slide, 240 versus 480 versus 720. This is the smarter, not harder. The harder way about this is to keep growing, interacting or buying leads, interacting with potential leads that are not relationships, that are cold and very surface level. And I just keep growing more and more and more people and having minimal interactions. And we're going to flip it and we're going to get the same result. I'm going to show you how to get the same results from the 720 member database with 240. That's the smarter, not harder. It works a lot like compound interest. If you guys have heard the example we use a lot, like in our 5 to 25 challenge and some of the other Locker Room broadcasts, we use we present the question of, would you like to have a penny today that doubles to 2 cents tomorrow, that doubles to 4 cents the next day, that doubles to 8 cents the next day, so it keeps compounding for 30 days? Would you take that option? Or would you take the envelope over here that has $1 million in it? I want you guys to look that up. That penny today, compounding every day, ends up at more than $5 million at the end of 30 days. It's mind-blowing. So again, back to that quote, it's the little hinges that swing the big doors. It's the little efforts every day with focus, intentionality, and consistency that bring you the income you desire. All right, marketing 101, give you a little marketing kind of tutorial here and kind of define some terms, because there's a lot of different ways, right, that we can interact with the public, with the database, and achieve results. Now, in marketing, we have what's called direct activities and we have what's called indirect activities. Those are both there at the top of the triangle. The idea is we want them to funnel down and actually use a combination of both. So Chuck, what's the difference? Well, let me tell you. So direct activities are definitely the you inserted in them. They're powered by you. They're not going to get done without you. They're not automated, they're you. So therefore, the systematic part is your schedule, and then layer in your commitment to your schedule. The great thing about direct activities, they have the highest and a lot of times the quickest return or result. They have a low financial investment. Now, your time is worth something, yet truly money out of your pocket right then in that moment, they have the lowest financial investment. There is a time investment because it takes you to do it. Some may be able to be leveraged or handed off, but generally it's you or a team member if you're at that point, or someday when you are, growing a team, if that's your choice. And again, like I said, there's very timely answers and results. Even if it's a no, it's timely and you can move on. You're not sitting there wondering, trying to figure it out, waiting on them to respond. Now, the indirect activities over on the right side of the upside down triangle funnel, they have the lowest rate of return. I've also heard these activities called passive. And it's really what we fall victim to a lot of times in sales. There is a varied financial investment. They typically cost something, the indirect activities do. Really, the only free method of an indirect activity is your email. Other indirect activities, whether that be mailbox mail, whether that be flyers, dropped off somewhere, a little business card holder at vendors, those type of things, there's a financial investment to that. There's collateral there that you have to pay money for. And there's upkeep of it if you choose to continue, that activity. The great thing is a lot of these can be automated. Even the good old mailbox mail in this day and time can be mailed and sent from mailing houses, generally cheaper, less expensive than you doing it yourself. And having the postcards or the mailers printed, attaching a label, the ink for your printer. Oops, that printer breaks, got to go get a new printer. You know the story and the cycle there. So it's great that in this day and time, there's a lot of automation. How that helps us is it's going to get done without us doing it. It's kind of a turn on the on switch. It's going to get done. The challenge at times is there can be a delayed answer or a response. Even when we put a call to action, when we put an ask out there, asking them to contact us if they have a need, or asking them to reach out to us, we'd love to share the equity they have in their home. Call to actions like that, even if it's a, hey, let's do coffee in the next 2 weeks and catch up. You're still passing that ball to them, and it's up to them to respond. Whereas if I was in a direct activity and I call up going to use Nathan because I can see him here, and I'm going, hey, Nathan, it's been a while since we connected. What does your schedule look like next week? Let's have coffee. I'm going to get, that's great. Let me look at my schedule and let's schedule that. Or I'm going to get a, oh, next week doesn't work. I'm going to get a response right there because I have him on the phone. Even if it's a text message, typically he's going to respond. Okay, I really want you guys to wrap your heads around this and understand it, because any and every method of promoting yourself or purchasing something or writing a check to in hoping to receive business from that falls into direct or indirect. And I really want you to evaluate each and every one of them because of your methods, because ideally you want a combination like the funnel, and it's better to have more on the direct side because you're keeping more of your hard-earned money. So I really want you to understand this. Any clarifying or any questions that I can clarify answers around? Okay. Well, whoops. We will keep going. Okay, so now we're getting into the work. What do I need to do? Don't freak out. Don't leave the Zoom right now. This is a lot on the screen. And you have some options. When you're going to do the 5 to 10% return, that's the baseline. That's the standard. Don't call it a minimum standard. There's no such thing. There's a standard. To receive the 5 to 10% return on your database, you need to make number 1, number 2, and the last of layering in social media. You need to make that happen. That's baseline. Okay. Number 1, 4 calls, texts, or direct messages a year. That's the best way to do that is to cycle through your contacts. And I'm going to show you a tool here in just a little bit that is already mapped out for you that you can follow. And it lives within the Locker Room Toolkit, Agent Toolkit. So 4 calls, texts, direct messages a year. There's a systematic, it has to go on your schedule. And when you follow that, they're going to hear from you 4 times a year. Well, you might ask, okay, well, what am I going to talk about? I don't want to ask them do they want to sell, buy, or invest in real estate every time that I talk with them. Well, I don't want that to be your message either, because they're not going to answer the phone or they're not going to respond to your text if that's your message every time. So I encourage you guys, come up with something that's seasonality. If we think about right now, we are going into third quarter. Third quarter is July, August, and September. Just think, what's happening? What are the holidays? What are festivities that are occurring in my area that I live in or in my community? What's in the press or the news right now that I could be a better source of information than the media? Just what's happening? Guys, you only have to have 4 messages a year. That's going to seem pretty boring when it's me having the same message for 3 months, yet it's the first time they've had the conversation. It's the first time they've heard the message. So that's where, if you've heard success is boring, yeah. So that's going to get really boring and you're going to want to switch it up, probably even switch it up in the first day. Don't, unless you have 2 or 3 messages you want to rotate through, but just make it easy on yourself. Have the same message the whole quarter. As we get into fourth quarter, lots of holidays happening, lots of things being celebrated. Great theme for your calls or your texts. As you cycle into quarter 1, We're kicking off the new year. Resolutions. It's a new year. Hey, just so I'm ready when you need me, do you foresee having any real estate needs this year? Or do your resolutions and goals have anything to do with real estate this year? It's a great message. Collect the information, put it on your schedule of when to follow up. That's being systematic. And then reach out when the time is right. So those are just some examples there, guys. The 12 emails, that's once a month. That can be, there are a lot of templates out there that you can follow, like a newsletter type template. I really encourage you guys to make it specific on your area, where you live, like not necessarily hyper local. Hyper local would be like your neighborhood or, your square mile like section, but make it local. I think the worst thing in the world is well, maybe not the worst thing in the world, that's kind of dramatic. But I think something that's not relative is for me to have information about the real estate market nationally. Well, that's good, but what's the message I need to know? What's the message that pertains to me, in this moment? Also note that when you can insert video into emails, the engagement, the open rate, it all increases. It all increases. And on video, going back to that number one, the text messages, that can be a video. And I even encourage that. It's much more personable. It's relatable. They're hearing you. They're hearing your tonality. They're seeing your expressions, all of the above. Much higher conversion rate when you use video. Okay, so those are baseline, those two items, and the last of interacting on social media. And I've got a plan for social media here for you on the next slide when we get to it. Now, when I'm desiring to go from that, like somewhere around that 10% conversion of my database up to potentially 15, 16%. And I said, you got to really show up. You got to play all in. Guys, it's high level execution, and you can grow into it. You don't have to go from 0 to 60. Next to impossible to do that and to maintain it. So items that you can layer in: 2 additional person-specific calls or direct mail a year. That could be their birthday, that could be their home anniversary, that could be their relationship anniversary, that could be you watching and seeing what's going on in their world on social media, and they just had a baby or they lost one of their fur babies, and you send a handwritten card in the mail. Those are those personal touches that are specific to each and every person in your database. Now go back to one of the first slides when I said 240 versus 700 and whatever that high number was. Can we all agree it's going to be much easier to monitor 240 at a higher level of engagement than that big number? Yeah. I'll answer that one for you. Yes or yes, it's yes. So seasonal pop buys. Guys, pop buys are not in everyone's wheelhouse. Do what you enjoy doing as the interactions, but seasonal pop buys, there are some great resources out there in Track. There are some ideas around the pop buys. Also, there is a Facebook group out there that for realtors that has pop buy ideas galore. I mean, there's anything and everything on there. And then I've definitely seen a lot of them highlighted on, oh my gosh, Pinterest. I almost said Etsy. Yeah, I'm sure you could get something on Etsy too, but on Pinterest, there's a lot of them highlighted as well. The week in Track that I keep mentioning about database and the pop buys, things like that, I have this on my desk. Week 8, it is week 8. And then week 1 is all about the memory jogger and sparking your mind and getting you into making that list of everyone to go in your database. Another tactic that you can layer into your efforts your lead gen efforts are 1 to 2 client events a year. I suggest if you're not an entertainer or you just kind of tiptoed into that, and you have not hosted an event, start small. Start small, perfect the process, and grow it from there. The great thing about client events, there's a built-in 4 to 5 touches, interactions around the event. And that would play out like this. At some point, early on when the event's kind of in the conceptual stages, I'm going to send out a save the date. Then I'm going to either email or snail mail, mailbox mail, an invite. That's touch 2. Touch 3 would be a week or week and a half after the invites go out. It's going to be a phone call or text. Did you receive our invite? Can I count on you? Can I mark you as attending? Touch 4 would be, within probably 48 hours of the event. Hey, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday afternoon or Friday evening's event. Guys, we're up to 5 touches right there, if I counted right. Then there's going to be a follow-up touch. Thank you for coming, or man, I was sorry to miss you, or I was sorry to miss you. I understand when things get in the way, and I will be sure and invite you to the next event. That's 6 touches, 6 touches around an event. So there's a lot of touches there, a lot of conversations we could have around events alone, big and small. And so if that sparks your interest, let us know, and we can share some ideas or bring it as a session. When you do venture into, the next one is when you venture into direct mail or the mailbox mail. There's an opinion out there, and there's lots of conversation that it's actually like a way to stand out now, because we're receiving less and less junk mail. And how many times do we go through a list in our email inbox daily and go delete, 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 and we don't even open it? I know myself, I opened one yesterday by accident from something, and I go, oh no, gosh, because I opened it, now I'm going to get more from them, because I acted interested and it was really just a click mistake. So when you do venture into the direct mail, there's a commitment here. I would say start with an every other month mailing. So that's 6. And, work to have the budget for that. Then as your income increases, transition that to a monthly direct mail. So ease into it, work into it, and let it grow as your financial abilities grow as well. Okay. Now keep in mind, when I'm speaking of direct mail here, and this conversation today is around your database, not necessarily farming a neighborhood. That's a little bit of a whole different tactic there. And there is a great module in the Locker Room University that Coach Adrian recorded for us. My gosh, it was, I think, right at the turn of the year, that was around farming. A little different concept with farming, and you really have to have deeper pockets when you make that commitment for farming, or really you're potentially wasting money. All right. I see a hand up. Miss MLD, what you got for me?
Yeah, and I was just thinking budget as far as that goes too, with the direct mail pieces. If your budget is not quite there yet to even do like 6, like every other month, maybe do birthday cards for everybody, especially for your core sphere, and then do another holiday card a year, which doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas. It can be a New Year's card or a Valentine's card or something like that. So mail is definitely an amazing thing. So I would do your best to incorporate it, even if it's initially on an even smaller scale.
Thank you for making that point. And guys, you have more time with that person in your database when they're walking from the mailbox to the recycle bin than they are when it pops up in their inbox of email and they hit delete. So think about, I mean, if they are going to throw it away, recycle it, at least there's more stickiness. At least they're going to look at it as they're walking to that recycle bin. Miss Yvonne, what do you have?
Yeah, so one of the tricks for direct mail when you've got a tight budget is to kind of front load it. So you send them every month for about 3 months, and you can spread them out. And to them, it feels like they're getting it every month. But now you've just cut your budget in half. And then by the end of the year, you could potentially cut it back to just once a quarter. And but they feel like, wow, she's sending something or he's sending something every single month. It's how it feels.
I love that. Thank you for bringing that up, because it's that impression. You make that impression in the beginning. There's a story that's been around for years and years, and I don't know really who owns the rights to the story, yet it's popular on TikTok right now as well, because I've even had family members ask me if I've seen it, and I'm like, I've known that story for probably 15 years. That's nothing new. But the scenario is it was a study, a sales business study, and they marketed to a specific neighborhood. And they sent out a mailing once a week for 8 weeks. And it's this fictitious person, a realtor is the fictitious person. And then after the consistent once a week for 8 weeks, they started calling neighbor or those that lived in the neighborhood and said, hey, I'm just curious, if you were to buy or sell at this moment in time, do you have someone in mind that you would use? And it was amazing, just over 8 weeks, the impression that fictitious realtor had made in everyone's mind. So that speaks to what Yvonne is speaking to in that front loading. It's a lot in the beginning, and then you can taper off just a bit there. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments before we head into the social media interactions? Yeah, Betsy, what you got?
I would just say in times like this, especially when budget funds are low, really take advantage of your vendor partners, because they want to reach your sphere just as much as you do. So your lenders, your inspectors, your, I don't know, termite guys, whomever is on your list and really loves to support you, they will probably just want to stick their logo on the bottom, take up a little bit of real estate, and they'll pay for half or more.
Nurture those relationships. And that was almost a little bit of a spoiler alert of something I have coming up here in a bit, because we're going to talk about organizing the database or grouping it as well. All right, are we ready to move on? Anyone else? Okay, I'll keep sharing here, or I'll go back to sharing. All right, so again, from this slide, I want to say it again. The baseline is the first 2 items. And then of course, in this day and time, the last item of layering in the social media tactics. Then I would go to start adding in some of these, not necessarily in this order. You could choose which direction you wanted to go. If you love entertaining and you love planning events, my gosh, let's just go from baseline up to an event or 2 a year and knock it out of the park. If events aren't your thing, then work through with some of these other systematic approaches to it. All right, social media. In the locker room, we call this the 5x5. Now, the difference in our 5x5 and what we all do on a normal, like 30 minutes to an hour on a given day, hopefully that's cumulative time, maybe not all at once, is intentionality and tracking. You will be surprised. We think that we're interacting much more than we are. When you are using a tracking sheet and you're really tracking your interactions, it becomes challenging with some of these pieces. So the 5 by 5 is doing 5 of 5 things. So 5 likes a day. Engage, like people's posts, gather information. Okay. Hopefully it's your database that you're engaging with, like group them into a group, take all the other noise out, like focus over here on those that matter, the relationships that matter. Make 5 comments a day. The idea here is probably not as much like, comment, and direct message the same people. Like cast a wide net here and reach as many people as you can. So 5 comments a day. 5 personal direct messages. There's going to be a time that someone has asked for something or provided some information that it serves you and them better to take it to a direct message versus trying to host that conversation in the comments. Then 5 friend requests or connections added a day. Grow that friend group, grow your connections. And if you have some cleaning up to do, this is a little tip. One of the easiest systematic approaches to cleaning up your friends list and getting rid of some of what's in there is, I'm going to speak to Facebook specifically on this, is the birthday alert. Look at the birthdays that pop up each morning, and what's my connection with these people? And do I want to continue as, being connected to them? So sometimes we evolve in life. Sometimes, like you guys being in business today, there may be relationships that pop up in your birthdays or your friends group that were college relationships that are not important to you or out of, a geographic area of where you live. So that birthday piece is a way to do it one at a time every day. And then 5 scheduled posts a week, not a day, 5 scheduled posts a week. Now, I'm going to give you some resources here. Katrina, one of our coaches and growth partners with the Locker Room, just hosted last Tuesday the Go from Lurker to Converter. That's what I have right here on this bottom banner. Go from Lurker to Converter. Check out that Agent Breakthrough Edition. Great tips, tricks about engagement, increasing engagement, and getting conversations happening. Also, in your agent toolkit, there are some tools around, imagine that, tools in the toolkit. There are tools centered around social media. There are calendars that give you themes or topics of the day to help those that may not be as creative, or even those that get in a rut of the same thing every day. The idea is to vary up your posts, not all business, not all personal, definitely not all doom and gloom, like get away from that, and attract more people, attract more engagement. So definitely some tools there. All right, organizing your database. Now, there's a lot of different terminology floating around out there, and I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to speak in A, B, and C, so we don't get caught up in lingo and what does an advocate mean to a this or a that or a, so I'm going to speak in group A, B, and C. Okay, group A. The reason I have a dartboard here, think of the bullseye, right where that dart is, the yellow center. I would suggest when we're looking at a database of about 240 people, I would say group A is probably 5 to 25 people. Group A receives everything you're putting out there. Group A receives your highest level of attention. And from those items that I listed on the one slide, taking it from baseline up to like the 15 to 16.5%. In addition, group A, you want to have meetups with. You want to have coffee, you want to have lunch, you want to invite 2 or 3 of them over, you know, and hang out and keep, these are deep connections. These are also people that are very networked potentially, that are in the know. They're the loudest voices for you. These in group A ideally send you 2 leads at least a year. Okay, so it's not them doing business with you, it's those that they know, and through their voice and their advocacy for you, they're sending you leads. Okay, so again, this group A, it's a small and mighty group, and they receive everything that you're doing in addition to personal meetups. A great way to manage this, and then I'll move on to group B. A great way to manage this, let's say I have 25 people in my group A. And I'm thinking, okay, how do I manage a meetup? Well, if I did 1 lunch a week, I could go out to lunch with my 25 people 2 times in a year. Guys, how fast does 6 months fly? Wasn't it just Christmas and New Year's yesterday? Point proven. Like, time flies. 2 times a year initially doesn't seem like that often, but it happens more quickly than we realize. Okay, group B, think of it as this kind of light blue circle. I think in darts, I can't remember if this is the double or the triple, doesn't matter. So the group B in a database of 240 people is going to be probably about 150 to 200 people, something along that line, okay? They're going to receive everything from that list minus the one-on-one or the personal in-person meetup. Once in a while, yeah, sure, it won't hurt by any means, but to manage it on a larger scale and it be scalable, this group probably never gets any larger than this. Even as your database gets larger, these you keep this a pretty manageable piece. And keep in mind, these are the ones that you are giving that quarterly call to also. And so the group can't be so large that you can't get to them in a given week with the system I'm going to show you, the calling system. So about 150 to 200 people, they receive everything on your list. Group C are the coldest relationships of relationships, and they might not even know you yet. You might have to really work with these cold relationships to warm them up a little bit. It could also be the neighborhood directory that of the neighborhood you live in. It could be the the families on the Little League sports association. It could be your church directory, something you have in common with them, yet it's a cold relationship. There's really not a relationship there just yet. What this group receives until some cream rises to the top or someone raises their hand and you have the opportunity to move them into group B because your relationship is growing, what this group C receives is that baseline. And really even a little less than that, they're receiving the monthly email if you have email addresses, or they're receiving potentially a monthly or bi-monthly mailbox mail. You're interacting with them It's on really kind of a low-key, consistent maintenance program. Now, you may have people from group B that fall into C for one reason or another. I'm going to put this out in the universe for you that you definitely have people that are cold relationships that grow into warmer relationships. Like some of this, there's some ebb and flow to some of this. And that's where the maintaining the database, updating the database, when we were talking about the rules of it, that's where this comes into play. The better you can keep it organized, the better you can execute and receive the results from it. Now, one extra group are your vendor partners. And we speak to the importance of vendor partners in week 1 of track. We speak to them in Agent Action Plan when we talk about key relationships in your world. The idea with vendor partners is to nurture those relationships. Guys, those vendor partners are independent business owners just like you. So when you can have that exchange of referrals, business can happen. I always challenge you on the vendor partners, like don't have a total of 25 lenders, title company, and like home inspectors. Like let's grow this. Who else supports our industry? Where are the handymen or women? People, we'll use the word people. Where are the handy people? Where are the lawn service, the landscaping? Where's the housekeepers? Like grow this list beyond the everyday necessity vendors that we interact with the most, because that's where the referral partnership can definitely come into play. I know in Agent Action Plan, we speak to I know because I can see the document like plain as day, because Agent Action Plan is my jam in the fall. There's 25 lines at the bottom of that document in the Agent Action Plan. And we speak to when you can identify 25 vendor partners and you only receive 1 transaction lead that turns into a transaction a year from them. That's 25 transactions. What was the goal we were shooting for at the beginning of our Zoom today? 24. How awesome to choose 25 people and pour your heart and soul into the relationship, regardless if they're vendors or not. Just choose 25 people and pour your heart and soul into them at a high level and reap what comes from them. I see a hand up. Carol, what do you have?
Betsy already said it, but this is in the track workbook from the locker room. This page 15 is in the track workbook. It's called the memory jogger, and it has I was struggling with like, well, okay, well, how do I pick all of these people or whatever? And I've been in the business 13 years. I have a database, but I was really looking to build it up and make it more robust. And this memory jogger has all these categories to like help you remember, like, well, who is a computer tech that I know that I can reach out to? Who's my accountant? Who's my dry cleaner? I mean, like this is so helpful and meaty to help if you don't have a database to start it. And if you do already have a database, to make it more robust. So I just wanted to point out that this is a tool that's available through the locker room that has been tremendous for us.
Thank you so much for that. I love how the coaches are contributing today. Like I'm not gonna mention that here in a minute, but thank you for having my back. I'm playing with you. I'm playing. All right. Well, as we're rounding the corner here, okay, any questions about categorizing? Because I make sure you understand the difference in the groups. Again, group A receives everything you're doing and they're receiving personal meetups a couple times a year. Group B receives everything you're doing. Group C typically is a monthly email and some type of mailbox mail, or maybe monthly email and you invite them to your event, something like that. And then group D is your relationship with your vendor partners. And I see a hand. Yes, Katrina.
Hi, yes, I have a quick question in reference to your groups. Are we doing tags, or is it best to do a tag that says group A, B, C, and D? Like I do tags that say vendor partner or core or nurturing, things like that.
And yes, so Katrina, you're speaking to, like, you can call them whatever means something to you. Like use your language. For simplicity today, I was using A, B, C to just, if there are words people use, I don't want to switch it up on you. Like whatever A is to you, the most important people, like, yes, identify them as, you can use tags that are part of your CRM. Many times with a CRM and software, that verbiage or that language is already there as part of that software system. So just adopt it into the language you desire to use. Does that help?
Does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. All right, I'm going to come to Trina and then Sebastian. Trina, yes, Trina.
Yeah, as far as group D with vendor partnerships, would they be in your 25, or you just say like reach out to them on the outside of the 25? I guess I'm stuck on group D.
Okay.
As far as touching them.
You didn't miss anything. I didn't clarify.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my bad there. So I
Okay.
would treat vendor partners, honestly. Would I invite vendor partners if I was doing events? Would I ask vendor partners to come? Well, yeah, and I probably ask them for some sponsorship, help with the event. But I'm going to include them. I think I would treat them like this group C, at least something monthly from me. Now they're probably hearing from me because of the connections I'm making to them from my database. So it's probably more than a monthly email or mailbox mail because of the interaction in our referral relationship. But then I would include them probably to my events. I would probably send a birthday card. So this one gets a little bit of everything also, that I feel there's definitely more systematic to your A, B, and C. And then these, you kind of have to adapt. The vendor partners, you have to adapt just a little bit based on if you're seeing them or not, or you're having conversations or not. But the key was, when I mentioned the 25, that was just a number. That's how many spaces or lines were available in like that agent action plan and in track. And the point I was wanting to drive home is, my gosh, when we can just pour into 25 people and get one lead a year that we can turn into a piece of business, most of us have met our goal. Right. Thank you, Trina, for asking me to clarify that. Sebastian.
Thank you.
Would you recommend targeting the group C more frequently to move them up into the further groups, B and A, or not, because it just becomes too cumbersome at that point because there's so many people?
Potentially, yes. It depends it kind of depends on your bandwidth and what you can manage effectively. Because the last thing you want is, a lot of automation happens here, and the last thing you want is diluting the impact to your group A and B because you're trying to pull C up. But it can happen. It depends on your bandwidth. It depends on your budget. Sometimes it depends on your technology or your leverage when you bring on an admin support. Like there are a lot of factors there, but yeah, you can definitely grow people from group C on up.
Okay. Yeah, I love that point about you don't want to disengage the group A and B. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Guys, I know we're right at the top of the hour, and I am going to hit the speed button here and wrap this up. I believe we should be close to my last slide. Resources, again, Locker Room University, that if in the when you sort it on the left side, the database, there are 10 modules that are something to do with the database and your interactions with the database. Track week 1 and week 8, great resources for anything to do with your database. The agent toolkit, look in the lead gen folder and the database folder. Both of those have tools that will help you track, help you memory joggers, lead gen activities, you name it. Just go into those 2 folders, the lead gen folder and the database folder. And of course, I mentioned social media groups that are about that pop buys and marketing ideas. This is the tracking form. This lives in that lead gen folder, and it's called the system checklist. And when I talk about calling your database once a quarter, this is the method you want to follow. These are the last names of the people in your database. Does their name start with an A or a Z? The system here is it's taking a popular letter and a not so popular letter. And each week you're calling those contacts whose last name is A and Z. Week 2, last names B and Y. And you work through your 12 weeks and you start over. So on your schedule, you could say this week is my A to Z week. This week is my B to Y week. So it's a systematic approach. This also gives you just some other ideas to track and follow throughout daily, monthly, weekly, quarterly, but a great 1-page tracking sheet that's very simplified and not overly crazy. The biggest plus of it is this outline here at the top where you can systemize your schedule. All right. And this should be, well, here we go. The thank you. So sorry I kept you guys longer today. Any burning question you have that you need an answer to before we end this Zoom?
I just have one good question on the resources. What was the 4th one that was it? I got agent toolkit, lead generation folder, and database. What was the 4th one?
Oh, the 4th one was social media groups, finding social media groups. There's the one that's specific to pop buys. If you just search pop buys on Facebook, that group will come up. And you may find other real estate marketing groups and all as well. Yeah. And that last slide, guys, it says a NAR statistic says that past clients would have used, 71% would have used their same realtor again, yet shame on us because we don't stay in touch with them. And I believe it was 7 or 8% only do. And it's because we're not committed to our communication and to our marketing and staying with the relationship. That's what I have today. Keep in mind, we have a big locker room event coming up in August in Orlando. We'd love to see you guys there. You can go into the Locker Room Nation page, leaders, go into your leadership Facebook group. Lots of information there. We still have tickets available. So have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you for your engagement and your time here today. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.